This daf Yerushalmi Eruvin in the article Oz V'Hod edition. We're on daf Hey Amud Aleph, the fourth line down. Kora Achas Maush Etatir Shtei Mevos, and that in the Vilna is also on daf Hey Amud Aleph. A little bit further down the page. About 9 lines down. You have one Korah between two Mavos. Here's a picture of Chaim Kanievsky. There's two Mavos, one next to each other, and there's one Korah on top of them. And we'll see about that gap in a moment. So so it's one Korah. Maushtat Hashem Vos. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, Rabbi Zayin, Rabbi Yavo had a machlokes. Chadamar Otzer, Chadamar Mutter. One said it's also, one says Mutter. So the Gemara says no, it's not really a machlokes. Man Amar also here says it's also mitalim malam shlosha kosle mobli. It's where in the on top of the middle wall, it's more than 3 tefachim on top, beyond the top of the middle wall, and the halacha is that a korah has to be within 3 tefachim of the top of the wall. And here, although it goes across on the top of both side walls, not on top of the middle wall, and they're 2 separate vows, so therefore it's no good. Ma'amar mutter, he says mutter. It's me telling the matter. It's within when it's within 3 tefachim, also of the middle wall of the kosle mavui. Rabbi Zira of the walls of the mavui. Rabbi Zira boy. Rabbi Zira asks, "Chotzer amayini teres." Okay, mavui we know needs a lechi or a korah. What about a chotzer? Okay, so the ashkachtani we learned in a brisa. That Tani Ashatani Rabbi Omer but pass echad with one board. The Chachamim shtei pasim. Chachamim say 2 pasim. Rabbi Yirmiyah 2 boards, one on either side of the entrance. Rabbi Yirmiyah Bechir said, "Look, Divrei Omer shnei pasim uvad pas she'abar toy vikan pas she'abar toy vikan." You need 2 boards, and each one see 4 tefachim wide. Yes, Yerushalmi Eruvin said, "Look, Divrei Omer b'shnei pasim." Yes, that was Rabbi Yirmiyah named Rabbi Chia. The Rabbi now Rabbi Yitzchak named Rabbi Yecha says the halacha is like the opinion chose shnei pasim. Vani Omer, but I say, but pas echad, even 1 pas suffices. Ubilva but pas shalabar arba tefachim, as long as it's a pas of 4 tefachim. Now the next words, and checking the articles to see if they're not or not. The words mikan but pas shalabar tefachim mikan, the carbon A takes out. The article is not taken out, but Reb Chaim Kanievsky does. And so the way to read it is that, again, according to that, taking it out. Now it's a very strange shot in the Korban Eda, which is that you put the pas of 4 tvachim in the middle of the opening, then you have 3 tvachim opening on each side. But Reb Chaim says, Kipshuto, he says, you don't need a pas of 4 on each side, but you need a pas of 3 on each side, according to this opinion. Not pass mashu, but pass of 3 tvachim on each side. And can pass shlosh tvachim become shlosh tvachim become. Heavy do Amar b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. So he's saying name Rabbi Yochanan. That according to Rabbi Yochanan, pass it says v'choshu in this line and next line as well. But the Chaim takes it out and changes the v'chol to kol. So heavy b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Pas koshu mikan, pas koshu mikan. In other words, it's he's saying vani omer. I'm saying 1 pas of 4 or 2 pasim of 3. When you're ani omer, you quoted Rabbi Yochanan before. But Rabbi Yochanan said a pas of koshu on each side is okay, and he says vani omer. No, not a pas of koshu on each side, but a pas of 3 tvachim on each side. Rabbi Zira Rav Huna b'shem Rav said, Rav Huna b'shem Rav said, Mavish orka v'rochvo shavin a mavi, which is equal in its length and its width. So that it's not mavi. Mavi definition is longer than it's wide. Einan tarsa b'lechi v'koira. It can't be mutter. It's not mutter with lechi or koira. El pasim chotzer. It has a status. Chotzer needs to have pasim. I think it's actually also if it's wider than it's long as well. Same principle. Anything which subsides the same length and width is a chotzer. Shama Shmuel Minei, Shmuel heard from him, Loata Basrei, and repeated after him, Aboim Zimnin, 40 times, because he wanted to remember this, because it was a very important halacha. Rabbanan Kesor Mikain, Rabbanan the Kesor did not say that Shmuel heard this from Rav Huna named Rav, but rather that Shmuel Shoel Rav. Shmuel asked his Rav, Kam Ye Orkon Yeser Al Rachban. He asked him, how much does a mavoi have to be longer than it's wide, than it have its status of a mavoi? Hagiv Amalei responded, said to him, Koshu. Has to be at least a koshu longer than its width. And he repeated from him the 40 times. Atmi boy Rav mishklach. So if he might require, if he requires Rav and won't, say he won't find him, so therefore he wanted to remember this halacha. Not sure if Atmoi Barav means he's going to require Rav himself or he's going to require a Rav and won't be able to remember the halacha. Just want to clarify that what I said before a moment ago was wrong, that I look up in Mishnah Berurah, if Mavoi is wider than it's long, also has din of b'chotzer. So if it's not specifically if it's precisely square, is a din of b'chotzer, but as long as it's not longer than it's wide, has din of b'chotzer, whether it's precisely square or whether the width is, and even if it's not square, if the width is greater than the length, so also has din of b'chotzer, requires the two pasim as opposed to lechi or korah. Tamati, we learned over there, Shamovi Chatzeres Kechatzer Batim. A movi relative to the Chatzeres like the Chatzer Batim. Kam Chatzeres Yab a movi. How many Chatzeres need in order for something to be classified as a movi? Reb Chaim explains the continuation of the previous Gemara. He says the reason why we require more of a tikkun by a Chatzer than we require by a movi. That a Chatzer requires two pasim, and a movi only requires like a korah, because a Chatzer is more private, and therefore you need to have more of a heker for it, as opposed to the more public movi. Evidently, people use more. There's more ishtamshus, but it's private. Because in public, you need more of a heker. So therefore, we want to know at what point it's a movi is considered public enough that it requires less of a heker, because it's diminished ishtamshus there, and therefore you need only a lechi or koira. So again, the Gemara asks, how many chatzeres need to be considered movi? Rav Shul Taben Amin. Rav Shul both said, "Ein lohem pachos mishlayim, no less than two chatzeres." Yaakov Rav Shimon said, "I feel chatzer achas mikan, chatzer achas mikan." Even if it's one chatzer, one side movi, the other chatzer, another side movi, that's enough. Rabbi Yachar, Rabbi China B'Shem, Rabbi Chanan said, they said, "I feel chatzer mikan, bayis mikan." If you even have one chatzer on one side and a house on the other side without a chatzer. Bais mikan, if you have a house on one side, but chanus mikan, and a store on the other side. But Nachum Bar Yaakov B'Shem Yechid said, "Movi ain't pachas mishtei chatzeros." No, movi can have no less than two chatzeros. Chatzer, and each chatzer ain't a pachas mishtei batim, can have less than two houses. So two chatzeros, each one of which has two houses. Movi sh'orka v'roch b'shavin. A movi which is the same in width and in length and in width. Again, we said before, the same shear. It's this repeating we said before. It's not permitted with lechi korah. Need pasim kechatzer like a chatzer. Shmuel Shal Rav Kamia Orko Yeser Ochbo. Yes, how much longer does that have to be than wider? Vu Amalei said a koshu. As long as it's kosher longer than wider, that's fine enough. Again, like I said before, if it's wider than longer, it doesn't work. It still has the status of a chotzer. And the more example, Hain Dayu Daraya, the Eretz Yisrael, those people, there were certain places, the dwelling place Eretz Yisrael. The next word is Mabo, the carbon HS, the Marabon, they were square. In other words, we find in Eretz Yisrael, there were square mavos, in fact, which had the status therefore of a chotzer. Okay, next one is a very interesting couple of pictures in the art scroll, but I'm going to go with the very simplistic picture in the Chaim, which is slightly different. You have and the case like that, Chamesh Mavos, Psuchim Mavi. You have 5 Mavos to trouble to Mavi. Now, the big here you have this is the picture. The big Mavi on this picture it's closed on both sides. Actually, it has to be open on one side because when the side closed after it's just a rabbin, but and obviously he's like a on that side where it goes out it's just a rabbin regardless. But the question is the correlation between the small mavos and the large mavoi. So you have the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's just a rabbin. Let's just move this down there in the bottom. So they have the Chamesh Avos Psuchim Lamavoi. Oimem Ruba Parutz Uparutz Mubal Oimed. So that the Mavi, it's the large Mavi itself would be Parutz Mubal Oimed, if not for the small Mavos. But by the small Mavos which are around, it becomes Oimem Meruba. But the thing is, though, those small Mavos around it weren't touching it mamish. There was a slight gap between them, as you can see in the picture, right? So the if it's Oimem Meruba Parutz, the meaning that it's Oimem Meruba Parutz by including all small mavos, uparts Oimed, even though it would be parts of the life not for the small mavos, any tzar korah doesn't require that each of those in the small mavos not require their own korah. Im yesh b'neim dalad amos, but if those gaps are more than 4 amos, see the gaps in the picture? So the gaps are more than 4 amos, muflog, then the 7 mavos are considered to be independent, and you can't join them together to make the large mavi oimem rubla parts. Okay, say the next case. Tani Rabbi Yosef, Psachim Psuchim Meshus Rabbim. You have openings which open up to the Rabbim. Niftachim, and they're open. Nasa Mekoyim Meshus Rabbim, the place comes Meshus Rabbim. Nin Olim, and they're closed. Nasa Mekoyim Meshus Yachid, the place comes Meshus Yachid. Now, could be these. Chaim says could be talking about doors on the sides, and when they're open, the Rabbim can go through. Could be talking about it's a Mavim Fulish, which has doors, which would not be Meshus Rabbim under normal circumstances, and either on both sides of the Mavli. And when they're open, of course, then it's open. The Meshus Rabbim goes through the Mavli, so therefore it's no good. But it's interesting that it's a Pshat Ifei Naim brings down that he says that it's about the case of an askupa in front of the Pesach, a threshold in front of the opening. And the question is, what threshold in front of the opening? It says status Shusarab. So when the doors are open, so therefore it's considered to be the threshold of the there's threshold and there are doors in front of the threshold, between the threshold and the Shusarabim. So when the doors are closed, so then the threshold has the halacha of the Shusayachid. Doors are open, the threshold, since the Rabbin can get in there, has a din of Shusarabim. Okay, next case. If you have a mavi which opens up on one side to the sea, or to a lake, whatever, to water, you can flush it because as if they're foolish to an open area, and they need a tikkun on that side. Chaim says because they're afraid that the yam is going to have sediment is going to pile up there, and eventually it's going to be an open area, just like a bika. Therefore, you have to have a tikkun on that side, even though. Sorry, the video got cut off there. Even though there's right now there's water on that side. They have to have on account of the potential sediment. They have to build up. They have to build a tikkun. Hein shagad Rabbi Chanin, the street of Rabbi Chanin. We had the word shagad before. Lo atzar tzuras Pesach. Didn't have to require tzuras Pesach. Shu mislakit asar talking mitok shlosha. Right? She's the Yerushalmi we had before. That I tell mislakit, which according to Yerushalmi, it was the opinion of 10 out of 3. So why they put a tzuras Pesach on it? We'll see a picture in a minute. Tiknubok kedei lahati abatim shalmat, in order to allow the houses which are below. It is a nice picture in the art scroll. In other words, over here they didn't need to have any tikkun because there was a talmislaket here, but the one on the bottom here was next to the water, and therefore it needed tikkun. So they put up a tzuras pesach over there for those houses. This was cut up by the midron. This was not needed tzuras pesach on that side. Okay, so we said if it's to Pesach, even though the mavi is wider than 10 amos, you don't have to diminish its size. Yerushalmi was sitting and teaching this Mishnah to Chia, the son of Rav. Apik Rav Resha Mikavsa. Rav stuck his head out of the window. He said, Lace Cain. He said, it's not true. You need to have it. So it's one of the Ramas. So his best is not effective. So he said, Chia B'Shem said to him, V'loni Snaiken, I'm not teaching this Mishnah. Ditanise. You should teach it to him. So there's different gears here and there. Ask Nisei, teach it to him. But Odiles Cain. Tell him that this is the Mishnah says that we don't pass it that way. Barahuna Amar, Tzuras Pesach Amru. The Tzuras Pesach they said, what is it? It's a Kana Mikan. It's a Kana on one side, Kana on the other side. The pole sticking up. The Gam Yagabain and a rope, a bulrush. It's, whatever we use wire or string. Same idea on top of them. Rabbi Shmuel B'Shem Melachis said, Tzir Mikan, you need to have, as Pnei Moshe says, actually Tzir says Tzir Uben Tzir, according to Shnitzros and the Pnei Moshe. And also they change all of them later on. So the Pnei Moshe explains Tzir Ben Tzir Achor Sovi Bo Tzir Adelis. Have to have a hinge and the son of a hinge, not specifically both, but it means the hole in the ground where you would put a door if you do the door. So it even has to have not just the stick on which you would affix the door, but also the hinge, because their hinges were not hinges like our hinges go on the side and make the door go in and out, but they go in the ground. So I saw tzir was lavdafka, tzir ben tzir, not the two separate things, but it means that there's a hole in the ground which the tzir would go. But actually, according to the way the article has the picture, the ben tzir is the hole in the ground, but you have to have also the tzir itself, and you have to have actually a protrusion sticking out. And not only that, he learns it's not just in the ground, and it sounds away from Chaim also, but also on top. It's not enough to have a gemi on top. You have to have a koneh in which there's a hole, which is a hinge sticking out of the hole. Okay. Tanya Rebbe Chia. The Rebbe Chia said, Keitzam Matir Rishus Rabim. How you Matir Rishus Rabim? Where you don't have Lechi Mikan, but Lechi Mikan. We had this before. He says, you need to have a Lechi on one side, Lechi on the other side. Kora mikan, kora on one side, kora on the other side. When we say lechi vikora mikan, you have to have lechi kora on one side, but also tzuras passing mikan, tzuras passing on the other side. Rabbi Yirmiyah B'Shem, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak said, tzir, ben tzir. You have to have a tzir and ben tzir. V'loya mechusel dalos. So it's only missing only the door. So it sounds like that, but Rishus Mamish, we really need to have a door. That's the halacha. So therefore, the Korban Eidah says the Torah about here actually not a Rishus Mamish, but Mavi and flesh is Rishus Rabim. A Mavi which is open Rishus Rabim. And Bnei Moshe also says the same thing. So Rabbi Yirmiyah was here. Amarle, Rabbi Yirmiyah came from, and said to him, Ma biyotcha, what did you learn about this? What do you need to make it Tzuras Pesach? So he said, Tzuras Pesach, indeed, only need a corner on each side, and he gave me a top. You don't need the tzir and ben tzir. Rabbi Yossi said, Rabbana dog taiton, Rabbanan the Talmud could Rabbanan the Daiton, Rabbanan Talmud could Daiton. Say Rabbanan Eretz Yisrael. The Korban says of Shimon Lakish Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbanan Abava Rav Abba Baravuna Rabbi Zira. They both go according to their own opinions. Rabbanan Talmud, I mean, Tzuras Pesach Mekan. They said. and can be on top of them. Lace cane, and they said the Tzuras of Pesach like this, you can't be matir more than 10. And that's what Rav said before. Don't allow it. Don't say it's matir more than 10. V'Rabbanan, the Hachadin, tzir ben tzir. When I say need a tzir and ben tzir, lo mechus eladelis, they say it shouldn't be lacking only a door. They say the east cane. That Tzuras Pesach which has a tzir uben tzir, which doesn't require it's only mechus eladelis, it's only like a door. It's matir even more than 10. So we of course don't pass like the Yerushalmi. We pass in Tzuras Pesach, even though we use a kind of works for more than 10. Okay, but we don't need to have tzir or ben tzir. Evidently, that's like the Bavli of the Yerushalmi. So perhaps other interpretations. Let's go references some other possibilities. Doesn't actually explain them. But in any event, before we stop, the next sugya where it says. Etc. It could be separate, but it could be it's going back to what we said before. In other words, before we said the Korban Eid and Bnei Moshe say, well, the top of Sugi would say about Mova and foolishness, Rav, because we know Rishus himself requires losses. Could be it's a continuation, and before we said Rishus Rav Mamish also, and here it's saying we're getting back down to those shitas which we actually hold of, which require delis. It's not enough to have lechin korah or to a Pesach. Okay, but they're already involved in Valve. We'll stop here.